Welcome to the FiPL Farm Diaries, brought to you by the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority. FiPL stands for Farming in Protected Landscapes, a programme funded by Defra that helps farmers and land managers in England's national parks and national landscapes access funding for projects supporting climate, nature, people and place. In each episode, we'll dig into a particular part of a project that's received FiPL funding. And while we focus on one theme at a time, every story is part of a much bigger picture, showing how these projects and people are working together to shape the future of farming in the Yorkshire Dales landscape. Join us as we meet the people making a difference and discover how farming in protected landscapes is delivering for the Dales, one story at a time. Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of the FiPL Farm Diaries. This episode is all about planting hedges and restoring old ones, and we're going to speak to three farming businesses that have put some hedges in across the Dales. So the first farmer that we're going to speak to is Matthew Lawson. Matthew describes his farm when he took it over as a ranch. I think his stock were very free range and there was quite a lot of work to do. So Matthew got a FiPL grant to put in a lot of hedges and restore a lot of the ones that were there. It's really clear from listening to Matthew that he was really keen to restore the work of the previous generations that had gone before him. So let's have a listen to what Matthew's got to say.
I'm Matthew Lawson. I farm up at Castle Rig Farm, Courtley, with my wife and 5 kids. We have a mixed farm of upland sheep, chiviots and swales, and a small herd of suckler cows.
Right, morning, Matthew. Thank you very much for giving me time. Tell us about the project that you applied for FiPL funding for. What was it all about? Where did it come from?
When we first took this farm on, we noticed that it had suffered from years of basically degradation and it was suffering. I've always had quite a passion for historical features on farms. I recognise the amount of sheer effort and determination people put in through the centuries as far as doing hedging, dikes, stone walling, even historical features such as barns. And I felt it was a shame that all our existing features on the farm had deteriorated over time. And I wanted to do something to reinstate them. I also recognised the benefit for the wildlife, creating the corridors to link various areas of woodland that we've got on the farm. And I thought the FiPL project was an ideal opening to enable us to fund the extent of the work and restore it.
Brilliant. So what did you propose to do then when you put in your application? What is it that you were asking for money to do?
Well, on this farm, there is a lot of old stone-faced ridge dikes that would have originally had hedges on, and they would have defined all the ancient field boundaries. And some of these boundaries will go back to the Enclosures Act in the sort of late 1700s. What I wanted to do was access the funding to help us restore all these. Everything needed fencing because obviously when you're planting new hedges and trees, you've got to stop the livestock eating them all off. So FiPL was a good way of obtaining the funding really, because we wouldn't have been able to afford to do it out of our own pockets. So it was good, and we did quite a big project over 2 years. We did it in 2 stages. We did half the farm 1 year, half the farm the other. And that was why we were interested in doing it. And it was actually recommended to us by one of the planning officers that ironically came up and saw the work we were doing on the house. And she said, have you been introduced to the FiPL project? So it all went from there.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes,
that you were guided by somebody that was coming up to look at something else. That's really good. So you obviously have spoken about preserving the heritage and the value of what was already there. What impact has it had on how you manage your stock? Because I'm guessing if you've got better field boundaries and all the rest of it, you've been able to manage your grazing a bit better.
Yeah, when we first took this on, it was basically one big ranch. You couldn't separate groups of sheep. The fences were all on the floor, what was left of them, so they would jump in here, there and everywhere. we couldn't keep anything from straying onto neighbours' land. All the traditional hay meadows, we couldn't keep stock out of them, so we couldn't shut them off for hay making properly. It was all just a vast area that we couldn't manage properly.
Mm-hmm.
So we were keen to sort of get it all under control and then improve our stock and our management.
Yeah. So talk us through then the process of actually planting your trees, because that's not a quick, your hedges, that's not a quick job, is it?
No. I think we did about 4,200 metres throughout the whole farm. We would have done quite a lot more, but with the time constraints, and you've got to be realistic on what you can physically do. So we did all the work ourselves, hedging wise. First job was to go out with our digger and basically rebuild the dikes that had collapsed and disappeared. So we did all that first. We cleared all the old dead trees, all the overgrown hedges got laid. We fenced both sides of the dikes, and then we got involved with the local community tree planting group, who were more than happy to come out and help with all the hedge planting. It was a monumental task, and the weather really did hamper us, especially on year 2. We had a lot of frosts. We're over 1,000 feet above sea level, so the wind and the rain, when they come, they really bite. And there were days when we were coming in because our hands were physically just blue and we couldn't do any more. But we did it all within the deadlines. We got it all done, and the result, hopefully 2 or 3 years, will be quite spectacular.
Yeah. And I'm just looking out of the window at the topography of this place. Like, I bet you can't get machinery to quite a lot.
No, well, we're lucky. We have our post knocker mounted on our tracked digger.
Yeah.
So there ain't many places I couldn't get it. We did have a problem with the rain making the ground so wet. We were actually sliding down bankings to try and do one bit, but we got it done. Things like taking the materials out, again, that proved a problem. Sometimes we had to wait till there was hard frost to physically be able to get up there with the tractor. But we got it all done, and I enjoyed it.
Live to tell the tale.
Live to tell the tale.
What about in terms of your soil depth around here? How have the actual plants that you put in, have they lived? Have they thrived?
Year 1 was very good. We had an ideal spring. We had plenty of moisture. It was warm. Everything did really well. The problem we had that year was the weeds also did very well, and we were having to constantly uncover the hedge plants from getting smothered by things like buttercups, nettles, etc. Year 2, which was this year, the spring of, was an absolute nightmare because we had the drought. So we'd got about 2,000 metres of hedges by that time that we'd planted, and we were having to go every other day with an IBC on the tractor and water them, which was very time consuming. If we hadn't have done that, they would have all died. We have got quite good soil depth here, but it does dry out very quickly. So we had to keep our eye on that. We've lost 1 or 2, but we've noticed that they've actually sprouted again from the root.
Ah, brilliant.
So although the top's died, the bottom's still there. So all in all, touch wood, we've not got a lot to gap up and replant.
Good stuff. So tell us about the species that you put in, because you had some guidance from the Woodland Trust on that.
Yes, I spoke to a friend of mine in the Woodland Trust, explained where we were, how high up we were, the weather up here, and he recommended quite a broad range of plants that will cover everything from berries to leaves for cover. We put probably more thorns in than you would in other places, because the thorns will stand the high winds a lot better than something like a bird cherry or rose hips and things that will blow over. So we put a lot more thorns in, and then we interplanted all the more vulnerable species, and they should hold themselves all together and grow well.
Brilliant. And you put some shade tolerant wildflower mix in the bottom. Talk us through that. What was the thinking there?
Well, part of the FiPL project wanted us to put the wildflower seeds in the bottom of the hedges. So we went online, got a couple of bags of the wild seed mix. And then when we'd done the hedges, we went all along and just literally sprinkled them all in the bottom. And the idea is that the wildflowers will grow throughout the hedge. Obviously, when the hedge gets bigger, it will take them over and they'll spread out. But it worked well. The first year was a bit disappointing because normally it takes 2 years before a wildflower will start to generate and flourish. So the first year we were looking around and thinking nothing's coming up and wondering what we'd done wrong. But last year, the first year's worth that we'd done were coming through quite nicely.
Brilliant. And what have you seen in terms of biodiversity and nature off the back of that? Have you noticed any changes yet or not?
We've noticed a lot more things like field fairs. We've got quite a few curlews up here, which were enjoying the upland pastures. We have got quite a big collection of red squirrels, which up here we're very keen to preserve.
Yeah.
And one of the ideas for the red squirrels is these hedges will link the various woodland parcels that we've got on the farm, because squirrels don't like being out in the open, so they tend to travel along corridors. And there was woods over the far end that there wasn't a lot in, and we're hoping that these will link
that
up. And the other thing we've got is a lot of owls, and there's a lot of different species of owls. And the other idea with this is all the rodents will inhabit the bottom of these dikes and the longer grasses, and then the owls have got plenty of food and hopefully will thrive.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There's a handy app that you can put on your mobile phone called Obsidentify. And what that does, you take a picture of a wildflower, a tree, a leaf, a bird, a spider, anything. You upload it and it will identify the species, how rare it is, how widespread it is, etc., and it will tell you exactly what it is. Now, we found that very helpful because we could go round when we were checking sheep, when we were walking among the lambs, even just going out on an evening, snap something if we saw it, and then we could build an ecological picture of exactly what we've got on the farm.
Yeah.
And it opens your eyes as to how much is actually there without you even noticing it.
I bet, yeah. And also, I suppose, what's missing and what you want to work towards.
Yeah, what's missing. I mean, one of the primary objections here was to restore the wildflower hay meadows. We don't use any chemical inputs. We don't use fertiliser. We don't use sprays. And we wanted to get all the wildflowers back to encourage things like the pollinators. There is obviously a big problem with pollinators now, and we wanted to do our bit to make sure that that gives them a habitat.
Yeah. Okay, so talk us through then. Obviously, this year we've had a hell of a drought. It was really, really hot.
Yes.
In terms of livestock welfare, these hedges are going to play a massive part in providing shade and things, aren't they?
They will provide shade in the summer. They will provide, more importantly for us, a cover in lambing time.
Yeah.
Like I say, we are very high up. The top end of the farm especially is very exposed. A lot of our nicer grazing pastures are up the top, and the sheep tend to go up there out of preference. But we find that if we have a bad April, May when we're lambing, we can lose a lot of lambs just purely overnight because of the weather conditions. So, but we're hoping by rebuilding the dikes and the hedges that the sheep will go under them for cover. We've noticed already that they do lamb at the bottom of what was left of the dikes. So hopefully that's going to have a positive impact as far as lamb losses and welfare.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Because I think there's some farmers that might think, hedge planting is nice and that people only do it for the biodiversity and the restoration of the landscape. But actually, there are so many benefits to a working farm.
Yes.
Like you said, when you moved here, it was just free reign. Well, you can't farm like that.
No, you can't farm like that. And going back to my historical interest, the old generation knew what worked well for stock. They'd got the job right, and they'd drained the important bits. They'd fenced the fields into manageable amounts so they could get the most from their land, but also with little chemical and financial input. They weren't wealthy people, so they did everything with their hands, and everything was made to get the most out of the farm without spending money. And it's worked so far.
Yeah, brilliant. So talk us through then, obviously when you're planting trees and hedges and stuff, there's an element of plastic guards, but you didn't use plastic guards, did you?
No, we don't have rabbits up here. We do have hares and we do have deer. I didn't really want to use plastic guards because I've not really into all this disposable plastic and everything like that. I don't even like using silage wrap, but we don't have a choice at the moment. And we took the view that we're planting so much, we'd be willing to replace anything that did get eaten, or we may find that we have to repurpose it with plastic guards if there really is a problem.
Yeah.
But touch wood, apart from when it snowed and we had a hare going along nipping the tops off some of the bird cherries, the deer munched a couple of trees down near the wood, but once they're out the guards, they'll be fine. But we didn't need it. The biggest problem we had was weeds, trying to outcompete the young whips.
Yeah.
There is a slight issue with the nursery stock, because you'll find that some of your hedge plants are a good sort of 12, 13 inches high, but towards the end of the season, when they're struggling for supply, some of them are a bit small. So we put the smaller ones in the less vulnerable places on the farm.
Yeah. Okay. So we've spoken about your hedges. Let's talk about your infield trees.
Yeah.
What species did you go for there? And how did you decide where to put them, if that's not a daft question?
Well, again, we were guided by Peter Leeson from the Woodland Trust. There's no point planting things like an oak or an ash or something like that in a boggy place to the farm, because they won't grow, they'll die.
Mm-hmm.
So his guidance was invaluable, because we knew what we could plant where. Things like aspen, willow, they'll grow well in the wetter places. Things like oak are very slow growing, so you want to put them somewhere where you know they're going to take years before you start to notice them. I always like silver birch.
Mm-hmm.
Silver birch do really well up here because it's quite poor soil. So we tried to make little copses. We've always believed that there's plenty of opportunity to plant trees and do your bit for nature in areas where you can't use productively. So anywhere that we can get a tractor and we can mow,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to plant trees.
Yeah.
But anywhere that's down a gill banking, in a wetter corner of the field, or in a corner that's either poorer soil or it doesn't grow so well, that's where we've put the trees.
Yeah.
Some of them are fenced off now, which we did off our own back. When the trees are of a certain size, we can take the fence out, so we've not lost any grazing area. So it's all worked well. It's all about planning and understanding what you're actually trying to achieve.
Yes. Yeah. And you had that in your head before you even put in for the grant, I'm guessing.
I've got a picture of what I wanted to do. We're only here in our brief lifetime. This is here for hopefully forever. So it was quite important to us to do something that puts a bit back for our benefit, for our kids' benefit, and then obviously future generations. And that was the sort of driving force. And it was also to sort of honour the legacy of all the work over the centuries that these people have put into this, and restore it.
So the second farmer that we're going to hear from in this episode is Richard Tunstall. Richard actually got into planting hedges on his farm after attending a meeting with the National Parks about FiPL funding, and they actually came out and advised Richard on what he could do on his farm. So let's have a listen to what he's got to say.
My name's Richard Tunstall, farmer at Foggy Gill, about 130, 140 acre plus site common rights on wild boar fell. Roughly calve around 50 cows a year, pure Aberdeen Angus, and we'll have around 230, 240 Swildale Yows, all pure.
Right, morning, Richard. Thank you very much for joining me and for giving me your time today. Just talk us through. You've put some, restored some hedges on your farm. Why did you decide to do that? Why did you decide to put a bid in for a FiPL grant?
Yeah, well, basically we had quite a few stretches of fences that were sort of getting to the stage we were ready for renewing.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd been looking, we had looked a bit ourselves at putting applications in for like double fencing and hedging, but obviously a lot of the application process quite complicated, and obviously going through FiPL did a lot of that for us, which simplified it and made it a lot easier. The process of it, and and also double fencing and putting a hedge in, it's a better stock-proof boundary, and obviously it's helping nature. And two of the bits we did, there'd been former hedgerows in the past. I'd sort of always had a bit of an interest in maybe restoring them.
Good stuff. So what did you actually do in terms of, have you planted the hedges yourself? Where did you get your information from on like species and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, like obviously the Yorkshire Dales had all that sort of info. They helped us out with that. And so we got all double fencing done, and then we got all the hedge plants, planted them myself. So there'd be like hawthorn, blackthorn, mountain ash, cherry, laurel, is it? I think various ones like that. So
You're asking the wrong person. You know more than me on hedge species. And how was the actual, like, because you're high up here, it's a cold day today. How was the actual? How have the plants taken?
They seem to have taken really well, really. Because I know quite soon after I planted a lot, we got some real hard frost, and I did I thought there might be quite a lot suffered with that. But no, I would say 99% of them seem to have taken well, really. I know somebody suggested to us, because obviously a lot of the time you see people plant them with guards, and somebody suggested to us to put rabbit net on the fence instead and plant them without guards. And they tend to bush out better, and I think it seems to be a good thing, that, really.
It's worked well. You kept the rabbits out.
It seems to do.
And what about, like, did you have to clear any of it out before you started, or did you plant them into what was there?
No, most of it was all planted to what was there. It was all sort of, there was a little bit of coppicing we had done, like the former hedgerow, but no, mainly it was all sort of planted straight into the ground. And
Good stuff. And what about from the nature point of view then? Obviously, in your FiPL bid, it talks about connecting, nature corridors and that kind of thing, wildlife corridors. What have you got up here, and what was it that you were trying to help out?
I suppose one bit that we did was right next to what we call Mifford Park, like a bit of an ancient forest, and also that's connecting nature a bit, having that, and
so in terms of you being a working farm, obviously, it's important to be able to keep stocking. I'm guessing this was a big part of it.
Well, again, one part we did, we graze cattle in this field a lot, and we're joining a neighbour with cattle, and we'd had bits of problem with that single fence. Cows reaching over and saying it didn't take them long to wreck the fence. Where if you've got that double fence and a hedge, it's a proper boundary, really, and give it 5-10 years, it should be a good way of keeping them separate, if you know what I mean.
So how long will it? How long have you say you'd farmed on this farm for? How many generations?
Oh, back to 1930s, 1940s.
Right.
Like I say, we've moved around the valley years ago, but never got out. Well and truly hefty.
So how long will it be then since those hedgerows have been managed?
Well, it'd be a lot of years. I would say,
So it'll have made a big difference then to, I suppose, restoring the way it was.
Well, we did have a small stretch that was like well overgrown. We had that like all coppiced and cut back, and it's amazing how quickly it's like recovered. Because it was getting to the stage where it wasn't really a lot of use. Like stock could get through it and stuff. Well, now it's been coppiced and like we've double fenced it. it's improved it a lot, really.
Yeah.
And you can see it's only going to take 3-4 years to be a nice hedge, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any, how did you get on with getting like machinery and stuff? Were they fairly accessible places?
Yeah, no, quite a few of the bits we had done, it was by hand.
Yeah.
Much to the enjoyment of our contractors. But no, it was quite rough going.
Yeah.
A lot of it, yeah. And again, like, along with the fencing grant, we got like a difficult site supplement for some of them, which obviously helped a lot. Because with a lot of it have to be done by hand, it costs more.
Yeah.
That difficult site supplement helped us a lot, really.
That's brilliant that
like,
you got
to
that.
cover the cost site,
Yeah. Good stuff. So, when you were putting in for the FiPL bid, you mentioned that, did you have somebody out for something else, did you say, from the National Park?
We just had, I think it was Helen Key.
Oh, yeah.
She just came out. We'd been to, there was a bit of a meeting at a village hall instead, but just like a Yorkshire Dales thing about FiPL, and we saw them there after that and said they'd come round and have a look round and sort of suggest any ideas.
Yeah.
That's how we got into it, really.
Yeah.
So
the idea came then more from there.
Really, yeah. I'd thought about it in the past, but I never really explored it that much. We'd sort of done all the sort of grant things we'd done in the past, the dry stone walling. I'd done all them sort of myself applications. They were simple enough, but obviously when I'd looked into this double fencing and planting a hedge, there was a lot more layers to it.
Yeah.
And so I'd never really gone any further with it, where we're getting Yorkshire Dales involved. They simplified all that because they did it all for you, really, and you just had to do a few little bits. And yeah. But no, it was their suggestion, really, like the double fencing and hedge planting, but it was something I was all for, really.
Yeah. Brilliant. So they were really helpful then. I've heard that a lot.
Oh, yeah, no, it just simplified everything. Yeah. And like, once all work was done, doing the claim and all that was simple enough, and then they came out and checked it all, and they were really good to deal with.
The third and final pair that we're going to be hearing from in this episode is Matt Jenkinson and Drew Woodward. So they are part of the Crosby Ravensworth Parish Tree Group, and they've planted an awful lot of hedges and trees between the group, both to the benefit of the farming businesses that are involved with that group and also the landscape. So let's have a listen to what they've got to say.
I'm the chair of the Crosby Ravensworth Parish Tree Group. We've been operating since the middle of 2018 when we were first dreamt up. And thus far we've planted something like 7,000 trees and 4 miles of hedges.
Yeah, I'm Matt Jenkinson, a local farmer, beef and sheep, be third generation at Woodfoot. And we've been working with the tree group for a number of years and done a number of projects. And going forward, I think just talking now, there's maybe a chance for some more projects going forward as well. I came from the other family farm at Kirby Stephen, and through the years we've been involved with entry level and organic entry level and one thing or another, and we've planted a lot of hedges and taken advantage of schemes through the years. And then when I left Cirencester in 2013, I moved here in 2014 and noticed a big change in our landscape, and was just looking for an opportunity to take advantage of putting in some more hedges.
Tell us, from a working farmer's point of view, why you want to reinstate your hedges. What's the job?
Firstly, the areas that we started doing, it was single width ideal fence, aging fences, and getting a lot of mix-ups with lambs at lambing time, putting hours on the day that you don't have. And so the first idea was to put a new fence in and two fences and putting a better boundary in. That was my first feeling anyway. And then from there, you've got the added benefit of a lot of shelter. Going into April, we tend to get a bit of a raw wind sometimes, don't we?
Yes.
Really exposed. Yes, there's certain stretches of wall, but in large parcels, it's worked well to split them down a bit more and break that up a bit. And then we've worked on making large parcels smaller and maybe introduce more of a rotational grazing system. it's worth pointing out that we're not just planting trees for the sake of it.
No.
From my point of view, it isn't a green agenda.
No.
You know, we're in the protein production business, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
At the end of the day, and it's putting them things in the right area. One, from a farming point of view, and two, that they actually grow and do well.
You can't just put them anywhere, can you?
No, you know, we're not just going willy-nilly banging trees in because we think it's the right thing to do. It's that natural capital of it that it's going to be in the right area to last its lifetime and have all the knock-on benefits that we've discussed anyway.
Any farmer that's got any land that's anyway marginal, then he's as well putting trees into.
Yeah.
But there's no point in putting them in where your grass is.
No. That's just it. We've all got fluky areas of farms and one thing and another. Well, you know, it's that benefit of it, isn't it? You're putting something there that's gonna do well. And you're relieving a hassle further on in the year, aren't you?
So in terms of establishment, obviously, if the ground's frozen, you can't get them in. Is there any other rules of establishment, time of year or anything like that?
And it's all got to be essentially December through April.
Right.
It used to be that you could be planting in October, but these days things are still growing in October and in November. We take delivery of our stock usually last week of November.
Yeah. Do
a bit before Christmas and then try and get most of it done then by the end of March.
Yeah.
And even by the end of March, stuff's starting to grow. But it's. I mean, there are times when we put hedges in locations where the ground is lovely and sweet, and you can rattle through and put metre after metre in without any effort.
Yeah.
And then there are those old wall lines where that's the worst. If there's been a wall there before and the farmer wants you to put it in the same location, so to get in there,
not so much soil to go at.
Yeah, we use a spike, and you make a hole, and actually things grow. I mean, that one at your top field up on the fell there was quite a tough one, but it seems to be growing okay.
No, it's gone in well, and like them thorns will grow in most places anyway. So
just getting the roots in.
No, I was just going to mention that like we've been quite fortunate over the years that we've got some wood whips off the woodland trust.
Yes.
I think that's key.
Yeah. Somebody else said that if you don't get good stock, is that the right word?
Yeah. And that like lessens the maintenance load, obviously. But yeah, I think everyone's clued up with how it all works now. And just a case of understand that you are going to have a 3-metre corridor there.
Yes.
But as things go on and the hedge grows, you soon miss that.
Yeah.
And then it does push out, and then you are getting a decent hedge, and like that 3 metres is there for a reason to stop things eating over anyway. So it is all for a relative cost.
Yeah, absolutely. So just coming back to your tree guards then, are you using the plastic? Is there such a thing as a not plastic one or not?
When I was with Yorkshire Dales FiPL Man yesterday, we were talking about it. We are trying to reduce the amount of plastic we put into the environment. So we are taking old tubes and reusing them.
Right.
Not only are we taking new used tubes, the 4-foot ones we're cutting down to 2 feet. So we're having a much shorter tube that keeps us vole and rabbit free.
Yeah.
It doesn't keep us deer free, but there aren't that many deer around.
Okay.
And there are actually some places where we've taken a chance and said, look, there's no rabbits up here, can't see any wildlife. Let's just go for it and keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And thus far, we've been okay. There are plastic or more environmentally friendly alternatives, but they cost way more than the standard plastic spirals, for example, or plastic tubes. And until they get them down to a reasonable cost, I'd hate to think that we weren't planting hedges just because we couldn't afford the spirals.
Absolutely.
It's not being. I guess if the grants properly reflected the cost of planting a tree in a tube. The fact is, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but we get paid a couple of quid for planting a tree. The tubes I was looking at with Johnny Walker costs about £3.50 each.
Right.
It is a bit ridiculous that the fact that often when you're planting a tree, the tree isn't going to compensate for the carbon
Yeah.
that was made to try and protect
I
it.
know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you look sometimes
Yeah.
at these big, heavy wooden tree guards, and you think, well, it's never gonna.
No.
Yeah.
Never gonna offset that.
Yeah, you're never doing it. You know.
Well, the tree guards aren't, the tree crates, the wooden ones aren't bad, because the wood that's in the crate will keep, it's already grown and it's got its carbon in it.
Yeah.
But the plastic tube, that's come out of an oil well somewhere and has been processed and lots of energy's gone into it. And, I mean, it's a balance that we've got to get between the tree surviving and the environmental benefit of that.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue reusing because we think it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you don't really want a big blot on the landscape. You know, you still need that guard for a long time, and you don't just want to be looking at a big line of guards.
Guards,
You know, everybody wants to be, you need to be careful of how you impact the horizon, don't you?
Yeah.
But like, just touching on that, like going back to the carbon thing, it's something we don't just know what's going to happen in future with agriculture, but these hedgerows are going to improve my getting me closer to being carbon neutral, or maybe it's like being able to store that in the bank and trade it in future. It may be another commodity to add to our enterprise. So it's another benefit, really. No, it is. In a nutshell, it is a good scheme to be a part of. Yeah, you feel like, from a farming point of view, you feel a bit more involved with it because it's not a natural England RPA.
Yes,
you know, it's not a red tape. You're doing it more with folk out of your area, and I wouldn't. Maybe it sounds a bit corny, but there's maybe a bit more of a feel-good factor about it.
Yeah. I'm not corny. You have to enjoy what you do. You know, you have to enjoy it, haven't you? You have got to enjoy it.
And at the end of the day, as farmers, you know, we're protecting our landscape for the next generation to come through. Yeah. So if we can keep that soil health there, it keeps another generation farming.